are going live. We are going live with the Lesson Learned podcast. If you saw that little bit about Dragon's Dogma, that's because that's a game I'm playing on stream right now. We're picking up tomorrow, but right now, welcome to the channel, everybody. And we are talking about, well, we're going to be talking about a lot of news, most of them the big ones, such as Activision being Activision, Konami, strangely being Konami, in a way that...
I think we got your audio is playing through your end
Is it playing for
from
my...
yeah
Okay, let me check.
from your stream. It's coming through your mic.
Oh, okay. And that's because probably I didn't mute. There we go. Site has been muted. I apologize. So you got the reverb. So again, we're going to be talking a lot of stuff. We're going to be talking news, and we're going to be talking about Apex and EA and all the industry goodies, which seem to be, if you're a developer who works for Activision Blizzard, not so good. Because, of course, not. But first and foremost, I mean, I want to start us off with some esoteric news, and then go from there, if you guys don't mind. A couple of reviews have dropped for games that I think most people forgot about, thought they were in development hell. One of them is Crackdown 3.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that game until you mentioned it. It's like, that game came out already, finally.
Yeah. Paper Rock Shotgun has it at, what's the... Did they give it a rating? Let me see what rating they gave it. No, they didn't give it a rating. They don't do ratings. But essentially, it's like, yeah, this would have been a great game 5 years ago. You know, that's the thing. If we made this game 5 years ago, it would have been a great game or an okay game. But now it's there, right? I mean, yes, Crackdown has been going down to development hell, Switch Studios, and all that. But yeah, apparently not great. On other news, and I want to say this because I sort of crapped all over again on the expectation of this game, but I think I might actually give it eventually a different look. It's Far Cry New Dawn. The PC Gamer has a couple of reviews. One of them is an in-depth mechanical review, which they say basically that it has some RPG mechanics that kind of make enemies a bit spongy, a la Fallout maybe, well, not as much. Not Fallout 76, but more like Fallout 4, right? Which is a distraction, but essentially it's a shorter Far Cry 5. But the thing I liked, as far as the review is concerned, it seems that it doesn't have the, oh, by the way, we have this story over here, and you guys need to see this story, and we have to have countless hours of NPCs talking to you about the story, right? And even has a couple locations outside of the main area as well, so you get to sort of explore other aspects of the United States. I don't think this is going to be, because I got burned by Far Cry 5, this won't be a sort of buy as it comes out. Also, I'm playing Dragon's Dogma. That's going to take me a long while. Then after that, it's going to be probably Sakura's Shadows Die Twice, I think is the name of the game. So I'm going to be playing other games. Oh, and also for PC, they're now relaunching all of the Yakuza games. Like Yakuza 0 is going to be out. If it's not already out on Steam, it will be out this week, and another Yakuza. So it was like,
yeah,
it seems this year is going to be the Japanese game year for me as far as streaming is concerned.
So is Far Cry New Dawn, is this like sort of a sequel to Primal?
No, it's the sequel to 5.
Oh, okay. So it's a sort of a standalone thing. It's not Far Cry 6. It's just
it's like Primal. It's like it's like it's kind of a sequel, but not really. It's a bit smaller according to the review. You have like kind of superpowers, and they ramped up all.
Or so,
Ironically, it feels, well, the review at least, it feels like the going from Saints Row 3 to Saints Row 4. We're talking about Saints
hmm.
Row, where in Saints Row 3 you could be pretty powerful, but you were still kind of doing guns and stuff like that. And in Saints Row 4, you were in sort of basically the Matrix and jumping around and nearly flying and blasting things and whatever. It seems to be that kind
sort
of
of like
game.
that Far Cry New Blood Dragon game,
The Blood Dragon,
almost.
yeah. And I love Blood Dragon. Blood Dragon is, if you have like 20 bucks and you just want to, and you're willing to put up with Ubisoft servers, um, it's not a bad little game. In fact, I think it's the best Far Cry game because it's like, it's all the fun, good writing, because it's kind of funny writing, on spot writing, kind of retro 80s vibe, and fun, 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 which you can't go wrong when it comes to that. Unlike other games, like, oh, this is a silly game, but we're gonna be super serious, but not really. But yes, we are, and we're gonna do exactly the same thing we've done every other game since Far Cry 3 because apparently it sells and nobody complains except that one guy who hated it on the internet. Me. Yeah, so it's like, okay. Talking about games that may or may not be coming out of the pipeline, BioWare says, according to an interview with IGN, definitely not done with Mass Effect. Yet another time when Casey Hudson comes back out of wherever he's always hiding and says, "Oh no, we're not done with Mass Effect." I'm like,
Mm,
could we
I
not do this?
I mean that doesn't surprise me. No one should be surprised. It's just I don't know. It's just like, well, we sort of expect another Mass Effect game. I just think everyone's just kind of, at least I feel like indifferent about it. It's like maybe once they have something to show, instead of just saying, "Oh, we're gonna work on another one," and even then, think about that. So Andromeda came out almost 2 years ago now.
Yeah, it'll be 2 years in March. Yeah.
So 2017. And we probably won't see Dragon Age 4 till 2020, 2021 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So a Mass Effect game, if once they're done with Anthem, let's say they support it for another year or two, we
Mm,
probably want to see another Mass Effect game to maybe 2023.
probably. By which
Yes.
time, I think aside from people like us, which are kind of hardcore audience or were the hardcore audience, anybody else who's like massive what?
Yeah, like
Oh yeah,
I
that's a
don't.
game that my older brother, ex girlfriend, ex boyfriend, ex whatever played back in the
Yeah, and
day.
and maybe some people still make like source filmmaker smut out of the character models
Yeah,
in no 5 years.
yeah. Oh, that's the meme with the crazy eyes things. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that was a thing. Okay, cool, whatever, sure. But it's, I mean, it's like I posted out in another place's Tumblr, and somebody said, "Yes, this is Casey Hudson, whose whole career is based on mentioning this game every so often. Once again, mentioning the game every 6 months or so too. But it's sort of it's like it's the ultimate. They want to bring it up not only because it's Mass Effect and Bioware, old horse, it's a dead horse, whatever. It's also it's like this is the ultimate form of hype. You're
Mhm.
hyping something that, I mean, like you said, 2023 might be. We're
Yeah,
talking about something.
maybe.
It's like, what are you even talking about? Like, just you know,
And
it's like
and
either take a shit or get off the pot. I mean, that's sort of.
yeah, and then of course it's gonna be, you know how they drag this out, like, they'll start teasing us with like, maybe this person's from Ansible, or I don't know. We sort of had this one character, and I don't know, maybe they're from Ansible, maybe they're not, and then like,
You're
oh, where's it
like,
gonna take place? And then just be really vague about it. Is it a sequel to Mass Effect Andromeda, or is it a sequel to Mass Effect 3? Like, where's it gonna link up? Mhm.
Yeah, and to
I get.
me, if I were to be honest, you see, Mass Effect Andromeda to me was a dead end. Like, where they're gonna take the story, the Quarian arc thing? No, they made a tie novel with that. Mass Effect Andromeda 2 or whatever, more Andromeda. It's gonna be like a time skip, like 100 years or so after. In which case, at some point, it sort of stops being Mass Effect without really being a reboot, I suppose. Right? It's like
Yeah.
we keep sort of stretching the same thing. It's like, again, I know that what you're trying to do is to assuage your hardcore fans. Keep faith with us because we're keeping faith with you. But let's be honest, that fandom is getting older and older, and it becomes like, oh, I remember Baldur's Gate. I remember the original Fallout. I remember, oh, these were great games, right? I remember a bunch of games that have never come back, and then it's fine. We even had a
Hmm.
show about that, about letting go. But for people who don't want to, like us, Casey Hudson is there to remind us, keep the faith, right? I'm like, okay, sure. Oh, well, how about that anthem that's gonna drop in February 15th? That's tomorrow, sometime tomorrow. Is that
Wait,
gonna
what
be
now?
good? Is that gonna be good? Because you're
What?
talking, yeah.
Wait. There's a game about like singing the national anthem. The BioWare's making.
Yeah. Moving away from BioWare, but in sort of connecting to the stuff that we're going to be talking about a little later, we have Konami, who promises to stop uh, in-game currency sales in Belgium for their game PES 2019.
That's a soccer game, I
It's a
believe.
soccer game, yes. Pro Evolution Soccer 2019.
Yeah.
Um,
What's the difference between that and FIFA? I don't understand.
Different company,
I
basically.
guess is it
Yeah.
is it like a different
And one of
league?
No, it's the same league. I mean, one of them is a little. It's like having NBA so and so versus
Hmm.
pro basketball so and so, right? It's one of them has the official title of the official league, which is FIFA, and the other one doesn't.
Okay.
And they sign in pro players and stuff like that as well. But it's a big money maker for them. So even with FIFA, because soccer is huge in Europe particularly, so it's like, and around the world. So yeah, which makes sense, and I think it's like, I doesn't to me it doesn't come a complete surprise, because Konami knows exactly what they're doing. They're a Japanese company. In Japan, technically gambling is illegal, but you have what are these parlors? Pachinko parlors. And Konami is into the pachinko business, in which you play the game, the pachinko thing, which is sort of random.
Pew, pew.
You don't do much of anything. It's just a video screen, and the little ball drops, and there's not a lot of skill in there, because it isn't. And then you're supposed to take the prices you win next door and sell them for real money. So it's a way of gambling without doing any
Yeah.
gambling, right?
Yeah.
Because you
You
win a
don't get.
prize, yeah, but you could keep the prize if you wanted to, right? You don't have to sell it for actual money, and that's a different thing altogether. So Konami saying, you know what, we're not gonna push this. We know the trouble we can get in if we try to push this. We don't have to get there, so
Yeah. Which is interesting. I guess it's and I believe this is like the only game they've put out in recent times aside from Metal Gear Survive, which bombed.
Yeah, Konami's just playing it close to the vest. They have a smaller and smaller staple of games, and like, we don't have a lot of room to maneuver here, so might as well just keep what we have. They can take the hit and I suppose on on that market, and not, there's no need for them to look like complete jackasses. Try to fight this. They already have a bad reputation as it is worldwide. They don't need another black eye. It's like, we're not losing anything here.
Yeah.
Which brings us to people who are actually losing things, and the tale of two companies. Of course, you probably all heard about Activision. This is from Engadget, but other people have picked it up, so I'm going to put it on the chat so you can read it yourself. The banner goes something like this: Activision Blizzard lays off nearly 800 employees after record 2018. I'm going to repeat that. Activision Blizzard lays off nearly 800 employees after record profits in 2018. They're breaking their own records, and at the same time firing employees. Now people say, why would you do that? Well, there's just a magical word here: investors.
Yep.
It so happens that while, yes, Blizzard has made record profits, it also has taken overall in the past year, fiscal year, 50% hit on their stock. That means that literally, even with all those billions, Activision is worth 50% less than it was worth in 2017, in the fiscal year 2017. So they're taking huge losses as well as having record numbers. Also, the tendency is, and this is something that's not only in the tech industry but across most industries, at least in publicly traded companies, in smaller companies, mom and pops, if you go to a local store, whatever, and they're firing employees, you get the impression that it's going out of business, right? That's what you do to liquidate the business. That is also true in many instances in public traded companies. But the theory is that you can actually make profits by selling good products and services, or you can also make a profit, because it's all about the margins, remember. It's not simply the sheer amount of money, but actually the margins and growth curves and all of those things. That it's important also you can reduce your labor cost, right? If you reduce your operating costs, and usually about operating costs it means labor, you can go, hey, we're still profitable, and that makes the investors happy, but it tends to only make investors happy for a very short term, right? What they want to do is boost those
revenue.
The revenue. They want to get those stocks back up again, and then say, oh, by the way, our stocks have gone up, and we made a record year, and we're looking for a new year that 2019 is going to be also a banner year as well, right? That's what they're trying to set up. But it also could be as well. I mean, remember they lost Destiny. Egg Guy says that Activision dropped the Destiny franchise, and really it's more like.
I think it was a mutual, like, well, Bungie wants to go on the way, and Activision is like, well, you know what, we're going to trim the fat.
And the thing about it is, at the same time, I think one of their executives took a $10 million bonus. So you're paying more money to your top brass people, while at the same time firing your base staff. Now, I've heard some reports that most of these employees were tied to Destiny, and particularly the advertising budget. People who work on advertising for Destiny. Yeah. Which, if that's the case, that just tells you how much money Activision sunk in doing advertising for Destiny and Destiny 2, the franchise, which now, of course, they're not publishing anymore, so that's part of their job, right? We don't need them. And also, there's a video, because I'm gonna look for it. We're not gonna talk about it, but I saw it earlier this morning, and it talks about Destiny and Warframe.
And I've also heard reports that some of the people that were laid off also work a lot of the,
I think something that's enormously fun
stuff.
With it.
They're like community managers and stuff, and a lot of people and fans are upset over that.
Well, I mean, yeah, they're community managers. They're part of and I apologize for the audio that kicked in. It's that's YouTube for a bit there. I apologize. But it's a video, Destiny versus Warframe from Extra Credits. How 500 million. How basically Activision gave $500 million in free marketing to Warframe. I'm going to put in the link if you guys want to see it and want to talk about it, because I find it fascinating, right? In essence, what happened, or at least the argument that the guys at Extra Credits are making is that there was a an identity problem with Destiny, right? Activision didn't know how to sell Destiny because they didn't know how to really classify Destiny, and then Warframe comes along and says, "Oh, we got you in a way that what you wanted from Destiny, it's in Warframe." And so a lot of people migrated to Warframe, right? Also, the fact that one is a free-to-play game, the other was a $60+ game, and all the shenanigans that came with Destiny, and part of that brand confusion was like, is this an MMO? No, it's not an MMO, but it's an MMO light, but we don't want to say it because you don't want to resurrect the old ghosts of MMOs past and all that entails. And again, it was a bit of a mess, both in Destiny and Destiny 2. The lack of story, all kinds of things. And it's like people like what Destiny was doing, but I think they wanted a better environment, and they went to Warframe, right? A lot of people now are playing Warframe. We does have microtransactions and all that, but it's a very popular game, right? Which is ironic because when I heard about Warframe, it was like, oh, people are not really playing Warframe because they're playing Destiny, but eventually, it's one of those things. We always talk about the big game, right?
Mm-hmm.
How many big games do you have? And either, in this case, because they're competing products, can people be playing Destiny versus Warframe? They sort of migrate. Sometimes they play together, but often people just migrate as well. So it's like, yeah, that's what happens. All power to the guys at Warframe, I suppose. So there's a lot of factors in this and why you will have the layoffs, but none of them make Activision Blizzard look great. And like I said also before, my pet theory is that Activision is the Activision side of things are the ones that are taking the hit, and they're using Blizzard to Blizzard's deep pockets to shore up their side of the business. And the question is, will Blizzard get hollowed out and simply disappear and just be at best vestigial, attached Activision as a name and a brand,
a shell
itself, or will they, ironically enough, pull an Activision Blizzard, as Activision Blizzard separated itself from Vivendi back in the day to become its own company, and now, for example, how the people of Destiny did as well. So
I don't know if I really don't know if Blizzard can. It's like just break up and buy themselves back into being their own company.
Again, and this is where the secrecy of not only Fortune 500 companies, but particularly video game companies, hurt us as commentators, because one of the things, we don't know the specifics of the contract. We don't know the measures that we're taking when these companies merge, over 15 years ago, I think, if I'm mistaken. We don't know how they are tied together, and the changes that are made things. But the fact that Activision can put people in Blizzard's board, like a CFO, means essentially that Activision is in charge. Especially when you talk about the chief financial officer, which is the person with the money, and the old rule is. Are we still, Miss Dallas?
Yeah.
We're gonna get
to the one with the money.
We're doing the news right now. We're working our way to that because the next piece of news is about Apex Legends and how it has broken all kinds of records. So thank you for reminding us about that. Because on and welcome to the channel, by the way.
Yeah. The rule is the one with the money is the one with the power.
Yeah. Whoever has the goal makes the rules, right? And the interesting thing on the other side is we have another company, Electronic Arts, who's also taken a lot of hits in the past fiscal year. But all of a sudden, they dropped this game called Apex Legends from the makers of Titanfall 2, that seems to be doing so well. And in fact, it's doing so well that there's being a talk about people who are playing Apex Legends playing a little bit of multiplayer Titanfall 2.
Yeah. And actually, I'll be the first to admit, like Apex Legends has oh yeah, I have a copy of Titanfall 2 just lying around. I really should probably put that in and play Titanfall 2. And it has reminded me that like maybe I will like pop it in and at least try it.
I think I should try it. I haven't bought it. It's a sale. I think. Let's talk about Titanfall for a second. There are people from Respawn, who are actually the original developers of Call of Duty, which of course owned by Activision. So these, the industry sort of is very much interlaced one to the other. So when you often when you talk about one company, you end up talking about the other, and then the other. One of the things about that they made Respawn, they made Titanfall, which was a Xbox PC exclusive. It
Yeah.
really wasn't exclusive; it was half exclusive. Uh, well, you're welcome to the chat as long as you follow the rules. We can try to have a discussion here. We're going to have a discussion here. Um, but they did Titanfall. Then and Titanfall was one of those games that underperformed in the sense that it
Yeah.
came out. It was a big deal. Everybody was playing it, and then it was like, okay.
Yeah.
It had very little to show for it because it was a pure multiplayer game. I think people were expecting a first person, for party thing, and it was one of those games that made a lot of promises and never really delivered. Kind of like Destiny. We were talking about Destiny earlier. Not a horrible game. I mean, it's the cool idea of being, wall running and jumping and giant mechs in the battlefield. I mean, I love that idea. I think that's why I should check out Titanfall 2 as well. And they did Titanfall 2, but EA did them a dirty when they released Titanfall 2 in the same month, a week, I think, week before Battlefield 1, which was their rebranding of the Battlefield series, came out. And literally one game stomped the other because they were seen as FPSs first and foremost. And so people were playing Battlefield and Call of Duty instead of playing Titanfall 2. And that kind of hurt them.
And though I think it's been recently reported that like they chose with Titanfall 2 they sort of chose their release window, although they kind of had originally based it to where I think the first Battlefield was released a couple months before, but then that game got delayed and they got pushed closer towards Titanfall's release, which I think ultimately hurt them. So technically it wasn't EA's fault, but more like DICE. But
Well,
either way, I think it was a big messed up on both both people's party or both ends.
I don't really buy it because I think EA has far more control than they like to admit. They are the publisher. Release dates are part of publishing games, right? Somebody
Yeah.
could just sit in front of a big board and go like, okay, here's the pin. We move the pin from this month to this month. Okay, I mean, it's not that far fetched. I think it's more like EA didn't care. And then what happened, of course, was that Respawn, and a lot of people saw this sort of as basically as a dirty move by EA because then Respawn was an independent developer and then got bought out by EA to become one of their staple of studios. So now people are expecting Titanfall 3, and again it's like all of a sudden, hey, this Apex Legend thing, here you go. People are like, what's that? Oh, it's Battle Royale. Oh, okay. It's a team-based Battle Royale. It's like, I mean, you can play in teams in other Battle Royale games, so this is more of a team-based 3 versus 3 or, Battle Royale kind of thing. I played a little bit of it, and I had to go back.
With like character,
With
like
characters,
heroes.
character shooters, yeah. It might be the same situation. That's why we're discussing the idea of Metalis on chat is saying, let me read it for you. What do you think about Apex Legends coming out less than 3 weeks before the new Battlefield 5 Battle Royale game mode? By the way, Battlefield 5 hasn't done as well as EA expected, which is ironic. Which is not ironic because usually Battlefield underperforms compared to Call of Duty. Battlefield 1 did perform very well compared to Call of Duty, but then Call of Duty went back to World War II and performed very well. And then this year, Battlefield went to Black Ops again and underperformed, and so did Battlefield. It's not Black Ops, but you get the meaning, right?
Yeah.
I only ask because EA published it and seems like they both created and kill their own competition. Yeah, this sort of brand confusion. And of course, tomorrow we're going to have Anthem. And you have Anthem is a third-person shooter, like MMO light, so more competition to Destiny. Apex is a first-person, team-based, hero-based shooter battle royale, but it's also sci-fi as well because it's based on Titanfall. So you have a lot of brand confusion. On one hand, Apex Legends, when it dropped, it hit 35 million users, which is numbers that I think they exceeded Destiny's numbers by 10 million. But
and of course, I think the biggest thing that probably helps is the game's free to play, so there's no admission fee.
No. And I think it was also there to pad Origin. I mean, Electronic Arts have been trying to push Origin very heavily and everything they want. That's their platform. They want to sell that. And I apologize for the barking dogs, not my dogs. Oh boy, and they basically, I think they just released this game. It's like, hey, we're just gonna have it in the staple. It's gonna be there. Well, in addition to, we have Far Cry New Dawn as well. The saturation FPS genre seems to be very large regarding the month of February. I don't see Far Cry New Dawn as a direct competition to this. Yes, there are multiple types of FPSs, but the person, for example, I'm more likely to play Far Cry New Dawn than I'm play Apex Legends. I'm gonna try Apex Legends, but because I prefer the single player, right, and just exploring a world and this open world kind of thing. It's slightly different. But yeah, you could have that. And I think, remember, February and March are the months where everything that doesn't get published in November and in October, November gets pushed over to the next year, because it's the end and the beginning of the fiscal fiscal year. That's why you don't see a lot of games in the summer, because that's mid-fiscal year. And companies are looking for that big hit either at the beginning or at the end, before they're going to announce a profit or afterwards. Well, yes, with Metro Exodus, that would be a direct competition, and a lot of people are making that comparison. But going back a little bit to Apex Legends, that
game comes out tomorrow too.
Yeah,
oh, wow.
Yeah. Again, it's those games that get pushed over because they've had delays, or it's like, ironically, it's like the movie calendar in a way, that a lot of movie studios release movies in January, the kind of movies that they're just stinkers, and sometimes they hit it big, but most of the times they don't, right? But the difference is that video games have their big time releases in October, November, coming up for Christmas sales, and the summer, and movies have the big summer blockbuster season, right? So it's big different, but it's similar as well in many of the patterns. One of the things about Apex Legends is it's free to play, hero-based shooter. So I think it attracts some people that are sort of tired of Overwatch, right? Yeah. And also people who are looking for new things still in the Battle Royale theme, right? Okay. I like PUBG. I liked actually the look of PUBG. And I didn't like the look of Fortnite. I never actually tried PUBG. I was like, oh, I'm going to try. But by the time it got there, it's like everybody moved on. So it was like, oh, Fortnite. Yeah. And I was going to play Fortnite, but Fortnite to me looks so cartoonish. It was like, I don't like the look of this game. It just feels so not right for me. And I think Apex Legends, even though I hate I'm a lousy multiplayer kind of guy.
I am too.
But it has just enough elements there. And I think it even has a little bit of what was his game that was in sort of another planet, and not the Outer Worlds. Oh, by the way, that was the news about Outer Worlds we missed. An aside, well, we're going to talk about that later, because I think we're going to have about 10-15 minutes to pick it up. But chat, remind me about Outer Worlds.
No Man's Sky.
No Man's Sky. No, talk about
the Outer Planet, or
the one with the characters blowing his brains out. Has a mask, like a hockey mask. Borderlands.
Okay, yeah, Borderlands.
Which I played the original. Borderlands. And it was like, I played the original, and I wasn't going to play 2 because it felt more like the same. So now people are saying, going back to the subject, that Apex Legends is saving EA.
I don't know. I don't know about saving EA. First off, I don't feel like EA has any saving to be done in terms of I think their stocks can hit like take another dip and they would still be fine. So they're not in any danger of going out of business anytime soon. But I don't know about like it's saving EA from like what though? Like themselves? If anything, it might encourage EA to be like, well, maybe we need more free to play games and with more microtransactions in them than like making these dumb like fee to pay games like Anthem. I would consider Anthem a fee to pay game
Well, definitely, yeah.
because you've got to pay $60 up front minimum and then all these microtransactions in order to get stuff, or you can just keep grinding on to nauseum to get the thing for free if you really want to invest the time.
I think you hit something there. I think what Apex Legends could do, if it's successful and EA manages to milk this, is to repair EA's image a little bit, right? Oh, EA is a company that makes cool, fun games that everyone wants to play, right? Rather than this monolithic, let me drop the same game over and over again on you and expect you to, fee to pay and play more and more of it. The thing about it is that right now we are reaching or perhaps going past peak battle royale. Okay. Here's every single trend out there. Start slow with a couple of games that people, oh, that's a cool game, but nobody really gets into it. Then you have your stride with that 1 or 2 games that really pushed it. It's like everybody, oh, this is the game, right? PUBG being one of them. PUBG didn't invent Battle Royale. Battle Royale basically is an extension of zombie survival games, which ran out of their course and is still out there. Crests the wave, you hit Fortnite, Apex Legends, and then people, and there's tons of Battle Royale games out there. More and more people do Battle Royale when the wave crashes.
Yep.
So you could have if we are talking about Apex Legends a year from now, yeah, you could say, oh wow, that was a great, awesome move by EA.
Yeah, it had staying power, and that's the other aspect. What's the staying power of this game? I don't think it's going to knock down Fortnite or PUBG down. It might reach a happy third, but
yeah.
It's let's see if it's going to stay relevant, if the player base is going to stay despite all the other games coming out, and then see if it's successful in terms of its microtransactions and its money making revenue model.
Yeah, and the thing about it is we're talking about the effect of the big game. A couple of months ago, we were talking about extra credits, and they did a bit of a study where the analytics of Steam and how people play clusters of games. Like, oh, we mentioned a couple of games. Oh, you like your FPSs? Well, it's a good chance you play Far Cry. You play this game. You play that game. You like your, hero shooters. Well, you play this game, right? But the thing is, well, these games set a cluster. It's still like an Olympic event, right? You got your gold winners, your silver medalist, and gold medalist, silver medalist, and bronze medalist, and then everyone else is left behind, right? It's a good chance that you have Apex Legends become at least right now they are the gold medalists because they have the fastest and largest membership, which means then Fortnite becomes the silver medalist, and then PUBG becomes the bronze medalist. But everyone else is trying to like claw their way to just being recognizable, gets buried in the avalanche of that. Not only that, within EA, as Mystalysis and we have pointed out, EA time and time again sort of makes these crowded release schedules that sort of stump of each other, right? Because we have two problems. First of all, we have what I call the big game problem, right? These huge games that demand tons of time from us, hundreds of hours, etc. They're supposed to be played for weeks, months, even years. We might, we being the prototypical player, might have played 3 or 4 or 5 of these games. But there's only so much, right? We might play a game on the weekends and then play another game with our friends on a certain day, and sort of spread out time. There's only so much time in the day, so many hours, days in the week, etc., etc. EA is in the enviable position, or on an enviable position, I say, of always chasing other people's trends, right? I mean,
Yep.
yes, Apex Legends is the rare case that broke through and like shocked everybody. But really, if you think about it, it's following the Overwatch and PUBG and other trends. It just sort of can kind of smash them together and drop it in a way that surprised
Yeah,
people.
and especially in a way that like what was that game? Radical Heights failed to do after their other failure of trying to play the Me Too game of oh, what was it now? Lawbreakers.
Which
But-
had
but-
interesting mechanics, right? Had the
Yeah.
gravity mechanics and all that. But it was like, oh yeah, this is yet another hero shooter, and
Yeah, with the characters looked awfully bland. There wasn't anything kind of bold about it or noteworthy. It was a bit dated in a way. If our audience hasn't seen it, your buddy, wow, I am spacing on his name. He made a video on Lawbreakers, the death of a game.
oh yeah, Nerd Slayer,
Nerd Slayer.
yeah.
He made a really good video on the death of Lawbreakers.
And yeah, that was very interesting. And I think we're reaching a situation again. Talk about Nerd Slayer. He talks about especially dead MMOs. We have seen this before. We've seen it when people sort of rush into it. There was a lot of them. I mean, the MMOs are still being played, both MMO lights like Destiny, but also full-on MMOs. World of Warcraft still has millions of subscribers, but never again will a game reach the heights of World of Warcraft when it's reached 13 million subscribers, right? One could argue that Destiny broke that record, but Destiny's one of the reasons why Destiny was able to break that record is because it was successful in consoles.
Yeah,
Right.
multiple platforms.
Yeah, multiple platforms where World of Warcraft was only PC, right? And what's happened is a lot of people spend a lot of money on MMOs, and a lot of studios just crash and burn. We're talking about BioWare. What happened to BioWare? Why did BioWare ultimately end it in the hands of EA? Even though they were an independent studio? Well, because they went in the MMO track. And again, I point to Nerd Slayer. Check out his Death of a Game, Swotor, which Swotor's not technically dead, but he explains it in the video. And one of the things he talks about is that BioWare got in their heads. They wanted to make a Star Wars MMO based on their KOTOR license, right? They needed money. And I think we're going to have to talk about financing in the future. I have to do a little more research. But we
that
definitely
mess.
we have to talk about how games are financed, because that's at the root of a lot of this stuff. We sort of dance around it, but we don't talk about it. BioWare wanted to make an MMO. They needed the money. At the time, Rick Riccatello, twice over former CEO of EA, had been CEO of EA. He stepped out. He got into this holding company, finance holding company. The presidents of BioWare, two of them, the co-presidents, reach out to him, I think. He says, okay, I have the money. But essentially, so much money was needed that, for all intents and purposes, Rick Riccatello bought BioWare from them, acquired them. Rick Riccatello goes back to being CEO of EA, and as part probably of why they brought him back was that he had this very lucrative company, BioWare, under his wing. And now all of a sudden, BioWare stops from being BioWare Corporation, an independent developer, to being BioWare, a division of EA. All because they tried to chase the big whale, which EA tries to do all the time. So even if you have a quote-unquote success for Apex Legends, there's no guarantee that we'll have a long-standing, will be long-lived. Either another game is going to take over, or, we're seeing, in fact, the crash of the wave. But, these are predictions. Who knows? And also that it will not sort of stomp over other games, as Mr. Talis has pointed out, and we pointed out. Go ahead. Yeah, you can add it to it. He's asking if he can add to the long-lived point of Apex. And it can also crash and burn or intercede with other games. Because, we also talk about how Apex Legends is giving a little bit of life to Titanfall because it's linked to it.
Yeah.
But Titanfall is a first-person shooter, sci-fi first-person shooter. There's a little bit also brand confusion because all these are sci-fi themed. And Anthem, one of the things about Anthem is it doesn't seem to have its own personality. Young Yeah was I've watched a video about Young Yeah saying that this morning, and while I was doing shopping, and doing the groceries, and he was like, we still are not getting good solid details about what Anthem is supposed to be.
Yeah. And that's something I was going to bring up in terms of like, it would be interesting if EA saw this like, like, this free to play game kind of gave a boost to this other game that we have on sale. It'd be interesting to see if Apex also leads to more, not just more players playing the game, Titanfall 2, but also seeing a small bump in sales. And maybe it might see this like, ooh, we can make like free to play small game titles to, other IPs that we own and sort of kind of give bumps to other games and kind of breathe life into them like that. Although, like as you were saying, Titanfall 2 is a different game. First off, it has a single player game, which was one of the main complaints about the first game, is that there wasn't a single player campaign, but there is in the second one. So that's actually one of the reasons I picked it up. Like, well, this one has a second one. I like robots and I like parkouring, so this game might be fun. And then of course it has giant mechs, whereas Apex is supposed to, so it takes place in Titanfall. From my understanding, it takes place maybe like 100 years after the second game, and it's in the universe, but there aren't any Titans, and it's somehow connected. But they also don't want to brand it as a Titanfall game, which I think was smart, because if there aren't any mechs, then I think a lot of people would have been pissed. Now, I also did talk to somebody who really loved Titanfall. He had mixed feelings about Titanfall 2, and I asked him, hey, this Apex game, it seems to be Titanfall related. Are you interested in it? And he's pretty much like, no, Titanfall and Respawn are pretty much dead to me. So I don't know how that's of course just my sampling of one person, so I'm not sure how like the Titanfall community overall feels about Apex, and if this is a good lead or not for Titanfall, if it's a good direction, or if it's not, or what the critical reception from Titanfall fans is as a whole. So I am kind of curious to see that.
I'm gonna pause there for a moment because Metalysis, I apologize, brings a point about the growth of the game and the caps, and I'm gonna try to take your point and talk about it in a concise way. Essentially, that right now it doesn't have a lot of growth. That's easily fixable. You could just put a level cap, a higher level cap. I mean, it's been done before. You can have more heroes. If they fail to do that and people sort of, blaze through the game, right? Then, yeah, you can have people like, oh, this was fun, but I reached level 100. I got all the unlockables. Bye-bye, right? It has happened before. Again, going back to the MMO thing, we've seen it in a way that it's like, oh, there's no real end game content. This is not an MMO, but... and this is what I've been saying a long time in this show, time and time again, that the games as service is another way of saying this is an MMO style business model. Having a lot of people playing for as long as a time, grinding as much as possible to spend in microtransactions, etc., etc. Whether it's free to play or not, it's all about keeping the player engagement and keep on playing. And just like MMOs, many MMOs survive by putting more and more content so people keep on playing. So I don't see that right now as a big problem, but it could be if EA or Respawn sort of fall asleep on the wheel and go like, oh yeah, we'll get to content. If you don't deliver content in a timely manner, yikes! You just kill yourself. Yeah.
It kind of makes me wonder how many like their resource allocation in terms of staff within the studio. It's like how many people worked on Apex Legends, and on top of them working on the next Star Wars game that their major their major project right now, that's their focus. And
Yeah.
honestly, all eyes are kind of on them because of the whole Star Wars license exclusivity with EA.
Yeah, pretty much. So they have to deliver as well. And that's supposed to be yet another game that goes into this MMO business model of playing forever and spending a lot of money. And that, you said it before, achieving all the unlockables is currently impossible unless you spend money, which is something I left out. It takes 505 total crate unlocks, which is 1,015 levels since you only receive one crate per level. Ugh. Level 20 and the other level beyond that, meaning that it will take another 4 months of level cap increases of 100 to get all the unlockables, and it's currently minus once they add.
Oh.
Yeah, that is something that could really hurt this game, because it turns the game into this idea of the grind, right? Which, how grindy you feel a game is more of an individual thing, but if you have mechanics that are designed to grind you down, and of course, literally what the grind does, it tends to grind the player down to a point where it's like they disengage. You wear them down to a point. It's like, oh, I was hyping this game. It's like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
fine, and then like,
Or like, ooh, I can make this game a little more fun if I just open my wallet.
yeah, and that's a kind of mechanic also that you have to be careful, because you know about minnows, dolphins, and whales. Your whales are the people who spend all the money, people who are gonna grind and gonna spend all the money, right? And will demand the new level caps when they spend all the money. The thing about everyone else is that the casual player who got into this game because it was a free game, like myself, just to try it and stuck around and played it with friends and stuff like that. I'm not gonna spend a single cent on Apex. I do not do microtransactions, period. I don't. Even if I had the money, which I don't really have the money, I don't spend on microtransaction. I can spend on DLC and expansions, right? I might even pre-order a game or two once in a while. I don't really like it, but I've done it. I did it with Ace Combat more because I was like, you know what, I'm going to pre-order it now the day before, because I just want to make sure it's in my library, not because I expected any miracle to happen. It's going to be highly improved or anything. But you need people like me, the casuals, right? The people just playing for free, and you need those millions of us, because take that 35 million install or player base. If let's say that all of them are let's say there's a 1-to-1 correlation. 35 million people who downloaded the game, 35 million people who are active. They actually have the install base, that is, they played and installed it and played it, at least played the start screen. So it's there, they counted. And at least 30 out of 35 million are active concurrent users, people who play on a daily or weekly or monthly basis, right? They play regularly enough to be invested in the game. Out of that final number, only 5% so far, because I haven't seen any numbers to change this, are actually the whales, the people who actually spend the real money.
Yeah.
That means, how much is 30 million 5 is 6 million, which is a lot of people. But that 6 million depends on the other 24 million. If we assume a drop off of 5 million out of the total 35 million that being announced, because when these numbers get thrown around, sometimes the people who throw them around don't really give specifics. So 6 million is a lot of people spending anywhere between $100 to $1,000 a month, which is a shit ton of money. But those 6 million depend on the other 24 million to play, and if the other 24 million are unwilling to spend the time and effort to grind this down, and they go away, the minnows go away, then the whales starve.
Ooh, so like 1,000. If only 6 million people paid $1,000 in microtransactions, that's $6 billion. Oh, holy crap. And I was just going to bring up, like, well, if they did, like, if they had 35 concurrent players and all of them spent like just $1 on one microtransaction, like that's $35 million. That's great. Like it's, and I don't know how much it cost them to make the game, but I would assume it didn't cost them anywhere near that much. I would
No,
hope.
this you don't put a well. I doubt very much you put $100+ million game as a free to play game. At least Electronic Arts is not known for doing that. So there, it probably some of the stuff would maybe even recycle assets from Titanfall 3 or something. It's like, oh, we spent the time, we sunk the expense, so might as well get something out of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, again, longevity is a big problem. I think again, going back to the point, it might save the conclusion. If I were to make a conclusion so far about the whole thing, is that the impact of Apex Legends, it's more PR than anything else.
Mm-hmm. It might
Yeah.
be. It might be just a thing like, hey, investors, look,
Yeah.
we put out something small and everyone's eating it up. So
I don't think that's a miss. It might turn out as a miss up. That's the thing about microtransactions and loot boxes and loot crates and all that. I don't know if the game has loot boxes. I don't think so. I think it's just straight up microtransactions. But here's the thing: there's a double. There's a double meaning or double, not a double entendre because it's not filthy. Well, I consider it to be filthy microtransactions, but not in that sense. In this
double standard.
double standard in which microtransactions are purely optional, right? But they do have meaning. People want these things. They want the extra heroes. They want the extra skins. They want whatever it is that the game offers, right? They want the variety to be able to play differently, right? And so you have to find a way to encourage them to spend money. If you make it too easy to people get it just by regular play, right? Then people don't spend money. And even the whales are going to go like, but they're going to go for their wallet. And it's like, but I could just play an hour more and get the thing. So sure, I'm having fun with my friends. I don't have to, right? I mean, when people say, well, I played Warframe for hours and then never spent enough money. I got tons of skins. It's a balance, right? Even in free-to-play game, you have to find ways to encourage players to spend money on virtual goods. So there you have it. So it might be a fault on Respawn in that it's not properly. They could have finely tuned this even more, and I expect they will do so in the future. There's some. I'm sure that right now there's people in EA's offices going with old-fashioned calculators. You're like, okay, how much if we do this, and putting pressure on Respawn, going like, listen, we want some more money. Can you print us some more money? Please print us some money. Do the thing. And they're like, what are we supposed to do? Just do the thing. Do the money thing. Just do it. Like, okay, well, I guess we'll fix this or whatever. Yes, And then they're looking at Bioware like, Anthem, are you printing us some money? And then Casey Hudson going like, oh yeah, we haven't forgotten about Mass Effect, man, and Dragon Age. That's gonna be a thing. Don't worry about it. Anthem, Anthem. Oh boy, sure.
God,
yeah.
the one thing I'm sort of waiting. I hope it doesn't happen. The one thing I'm kind of waiting is that, either BioWare or someone from EA is going to be like, we really need Anthem to do really good if we ever want to see another Dragon Age or her Mass Effect game again. And we know that BioWare is dead at that point if they start coming out saying that.
Or this time next year, it's like, well, to investors, like, well, we expected X amount of sales for Anthem, but and I think that's really where Apex could hurt other games, is that you have to sort of get into the mind of the executive. Oh, this free-to-play game sold, people installed it in the tens of millions. Why cannot this game that people are actually wanting to pay for it? One of the cards is, yeah, that's true. I mean, again, it's a PR thing. By making it free to play, you look like you're being a good guy. Like, you're not putting a barrier to entry. But going back to the point I was, let me put it aside. I actually made a video about this which I should link to. I want to take a slight second to go to my channel and on YouTube's, on the YouTubes, and hawk my thing because I talked about just that. I talk about microtransactions and how people are justifying them, and apparently, yeah, how people justify microtransactions. I made a video some time ago. Well, you can go to YouTube lessons learned and find it as long as also with transcript of this podcast. Suffice to say is that people make all kinds of ridiculous excuses for microtransactions, but they do so as long as they are defending their buying choices. The moment they get tired of a game, they'll stop it. They'll stop defending that particular game at least, right? And that's the thing. You can have burnout. And I think one of the things we're seeing, and we talk also about activation and all that to sort of wrap it up because we're now coming to the end of the hour. One of the things that we're seeing is people are getting burnout, right? They're literally being grinded. Their wallets and their emotions are being grinded with fake hype and microtransactions and everything, and games that underperform, and all these wild stories about successful games that are still doing badly for the company. For people who are on the game model, right, on just playing constantly, like we're getting tired of this stuff. This stuff is tiresome. So I think, again, my final note is that if any, and following Chapomont's take on this, any saving of EA by Apex Legends, it's purely cosmetic. It's purely on a PR level. Oh, EA finally did something right by releasing a free-to-play game that is fun in a genre that everybody wants to play, so kudos on them. Until either Respawn does a smart thing and actually tweaks the game to keep it alive, or people find out that this game is not all it's cracked up to be in the long run. So you have any thoughts on that?
I guess my thoughts now are just gonna be like, let's see how Anthem's gonna do tomorrow and then the week after, and just see how well it's gonna do at launch. What if it's gonna meet that lofty 6 million sales in 6 weeks, and then just see if it ends up kind of following the footsteps of Destiny 2, where it's like, we need to try to increase player engagement somehow, and by player engagement mean push more microtransactions, and then kind of pushing like, we're gonna need to do really well on this like Anthem DLC expansion thing to be able to finish Dragon Age 2 or some crap. But at the very least, let's just hope that they do better than Fallout 76 in terms of their launch.
And I'm typing up something here because final news, which is I want to discuss it because this was an interview that Obsidian leadership of Obsidian gave out in Game Informer. Obsidian isn't happy with fans bashing Bethesda and Fallout 76. To summarize it, it's basically as you saw Young talk about this, I think, right?
Yeah.
And it's basically said that in spite of their own marketing campaign, they don't want people to make comparisons between Outer Worlds and Fallout 76, particularly. It's like, everybody works hard in this industry. We don't really want to burn our bridges. Even we got bought out, but that's fine. We're okay. We've been there before, and don't look too closely at New Vegas because it's not that great of a game. But sure, we're working on our own thing. Don't worry about it. Just don't make the comparisons. And also, I think one of the reasons there's like, because if Outer Worlds doesn't turn out to be as fantastic as it is, it's like, you came out to our house and said that you had the biggest balls in the room, huh? And now you're,
that's sort of what I thought too. It's like, you guys are kind of walking back because either you're doing a good thing in tapering the hype and be like, whoa, let's reel it back. Let's first off, let's not throw trash around and be polite and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, taper your hype. The game's gonna be good, but like don't expect it to be, the be all end all of video games. Or two, it's like, ooh, the game's not gonna be that great.
Yeah, let's sort of say, cool our jets and let the game speak for itself, which is, regardless of what I think about Obsidian and all that, the adult thing to do. They're being the adult in the room, and for once I applaud them for doing that, because we definitely need more people actually being the adult in the room as opposed to pretending to be. So we talked about Apex Legends. We talked about the news. I think we basically said everything that we're going to say about this show. I'd like to thank Metalysis for joining us and bringing some interesting points and stuff that we didn't know about Apex Legends, and everyone else who's being, lurking in the chat, etc.
Yeah, and then that is something that we kind of didn't really hear much about when it launched. When the big when this game was on everybody's lips was, how are the microtransactions? Other than, I think the microtransactions were rather lackluster in terms of something you would want to spend money on.
Mm-hmm. So, Chapamon, where can we find you on the interwebs?
You can find me pretty much under Chapomon almost everywhere. I am Chapomon_Aragon on Twitch and Twitter, but I primarily hang out on YouTube as just Chapomon.
And you can find me here on the Lessons Learned 1. It's important because it's part of the channel. Twitch, I am doing a Dragon's Dogma blind playthrough. I never played Dragon's Dogma before. It's out on PC and I'm playing and having tons of fun. And also, I occasionally make videos on YouTube under Lessons Learned, and I also post the podcast there a day after we did it. So thank you everybody for coming. Thank you, Metalysis, and everyone else. If you wish to support the program, yes, this is a part of we plug everything. There are many ways to do so. Joining the chat and having good combos are a great way to do it. You can join the Discord. You can sub, you can follow, and of course you can drop bits. Thank you everybody for coming. I hope you have a lovely St. Valentine's Day, and we'll see you when we see you. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.